So, plans have changed slightly for today's work. I was going to work on my dissertation for a bit, but I ended up with a migraine, and it turns out that my model is not going to be able to travel up to Grays to do a fitting next week, which means that I'm going to have to fit them while I'm home this weekend, which is fair enough, but it means that I need to prioritise getting a toile together so I have something to fit. In some ways this is good because it means that I've got the fitting out of the way and I can focus on constructing the actual dress next week, but it's also very stressful. So what I've done is I have cut out the bodice part. I cut it out with to the drafter waistline so that I have enough fabric to sort of play with, but I've marked out where I sort of estimate I want the new sort of waistline to be and where it attaches to the skirt, so I have like guidelines. I've done the same with the bloomers and the I haven't done it on the skirt, but I've done the same with the bloomers. I've marked out where all the elastic channels were going to go based on my sort of like guesstimates, and then I can fit them and adjust them accordingly during the actual fitting. The skirt I've just cut a width of calico, so it's about 1.5 meters wide. I've pleated it down and I have sewn it to a bit of twill tape so that I can pin it to the bodice and sort of adjust it and experiment with where I want the skirt to be. And I've also got a ruffle that I've constructed in the same way, that is just over the finished length of the ruffle is about 1.5 meters wide, so it kind of fits nicely along the edge of the skirt portion I've got. It's not going to be an accurate representation of the like fullness I want for the skirt, or really give me any indication on like the fullness, but in terms of length it's a good place to start. So I'm going to do the same with that. I'm going to basically fit the bodice, then pin the skirt on, and I've also made up a little like sort of temporary waistband as well to see where the because the waistband is going to be quite wide, so that's going to affect the silhouette and the proportions. So I've also made up a little like trial of that. I'm going to pin everything together, pin the ruffle on last, once I've decided on how long I need it to be, and then I will fit the bloomers. Oh yes, and I've also I'm still sort of toying with the idea of like how I want the shape, but I have cut out the vague or the first attempt at a apron bib that I drafted based on the bodice block that I'd made, and like the width that sort of hides the front darts. I don't have the back portion yet. I haven't quite figured out how I want that to look yet, so that is not currently I'm not going to worry too much about that just now, but I just by having that sort of like front bib panel, I can compare it to the rest of the bodice and see sort of whether it's going to be too big compared to everything else, whether I want to change the shape, whether it really matters if the like front darts are showing or not. So hopefully during this fitting it will give me a good idea of just the overall like proportions and shape. I'm still undecided on the sleeve pattern yet, so I will have to have a think about that once I have the sort of the bodice together, and then I can come back to it and draft those sort of separately once the rest of the dress is together, because that's going to be the main focus. I have also got I called up Fabricland this afternoon as well, and requested that they order in a bolt of they call it silk white, which is a sort of like off-white one, but they already have bolts of the pure white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with a swatch of my fabric and compare the nets to the fabric, because I'm worried that the pure white is going to look too sort of like neon, if that makes sense, like a neon white. Like it's so bright that it's almost sort of bluish, whereas the soft white is sort of like a bit more, it just looks a bit nicer, I think, but I want to double check before I commit to buying a whole roll of that. I'm also going to pick up some ballet net, some of the stiffer net as well while I'm there, so but I haven't ordered that in because I don't think I'm going to need a full roll of that. I will have to estimate how much I need. I'll probably work that out on the train home tomorrow. So yeah, I will have to I'll have to either record or take lots of photos of the fitting, because obviously I'm not going to be doing it at the studio, so I'm not going to have the tutors to sort of like guide me if I get stuck with fittings and stuff, but it should hopefully be fairly straightforward. This is a lot simpler pattern than my previous project. There's no like janky hemlines or anything. The only thing I can see having a problem with is the actual construction of it, with the trying to get the sort of fabric right, like the sort of like ruffles and proportions and stuff, but I will have to see how it goes. But for now, I think that's it. The toile came together quite quickly, which I'm pleased about, which means that the final dress will, like the base sort of like skeleton dress of it, will hopefully come together quite quickly as well, which means that I will have more time to focus on the like the finishing and how I'm going to make it look nice inside and out. I think I'm also going to make a start on the crochet lace. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to measure how long I want those, because obviously it's not something that you don't like crochet it widthwise, it's lengthwise, so I need to find out how long I want the lace to be, and then I can work up from there. So I might have to do a little bit of maths to figure that out. I also have on order another box of, or a full box of piping cord in the size that I think is the one that I want. So I will probably try making up some of that lace over the weekend if I have time, and just seeing how I go with the portion I've already got and made, and then I can sort of have an idea of whether I want to continue using it, or if I want to scrap that idea and wait for the lace samples that I've ordered to come through so I can compare them, because obviously I don't want to like waste time on the crochet lace if it's gonna look weird. But if I've got a decent sized sample, or at least a start on the bow to compare to the fabric and the costume, once I've got that like bodice section together, I can have a look at it and see whether I want to continue with it, or if I want to just sort of cross that off as like an idea I've tried but didn't really work out.